everyone. Thanks for coming. I want to make sure I introduce Ms. Sherry Jones, our speaker today for focusing on AI and OER. And Ms. Sherry Jones is an alumni at the University of Colorado, Denver, and she is a philosophy and game studies subject matter expert and instructor who designs video games and generative artificial intelligence chatbots as philosophical thought experiments. Jones is an instructor of AI, creativity, and innovation at the University of Denver, and she serves on the Colorado State Government's Open Educational Resources Council, as well as the Gaming and Esports Subcommittee to Innovate Higher Education. Jones publishes articles on the ethical uses of technology, such as a solution to OER publication resistance using blockchain technology to protect scholar copyright, and she is the leading author of reports and recommendations on gaming and esports in Colorado from 2021. Which proposes an esports league and game studies program for institutions of higher education. Please welcome Ms. Sherry Jones. And hopefully we won't have any glitches today. But if you do, then reach out and send me a chat message as well. I'm Ronica Rooks. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, everybody, and thank you, Ronica, for that awesome introduction. So this is Sherry Jones, and my presentation is a little bit wordy, but we are going to cover everything that's in the title. So it's called Open Pedagogy and Equitable Teaching Practices with Generative AI as Adaptive Learning Technology. So I am also currently teaching artificial intelligence and creativity and innovation at the University of Denver. And everything else at the end of the presentation, you'll have access to the set of slides. Okay. So I like to create a table of content for my presentations because they tend to be a little big. The first section, we're going to talk a bit about some definitions of words, so we're all on the same page. And then we're going to jump into generative AI prompt frameworks. That's going to be the second section. And then the third section is going to be generative AI prompt strategies. So this is going to be a heavy duty workshop. We're going to do a lot of exercises together. So let's get moving. Okay, so let's talk a bit about some of those definitions. So artificial intelligence refers to a computer system that mimics human cognitive functions such as learning and reasoning to make decisions and perform tasks. So generative artificial intelligence is actually one type of AI. So it's not the same thing here. So generative artificial intelligence uses a large language model, so that's abbreviated as LLM, to generate text and media based on a large data set. And generative pre-trained transformer, that stands for GPT. I hear people use GPT all the time, but they have no idea what that actually means. So it's called generative pre-trained transformer. So it's a neural network model that uses a transformer architecture to generate human-like text and media. So ChatGPT, the reason why OpenAI call their AI ChatGPT is because it uses a GPT transformer architecture to generate text. But that's not the only type out there. It's just one type out of many, okay? So I thought it would be good for us to see how a generative AI is constructed. And this image, this particular image came from Google's Google Cloud. And it's their new product called Google Vertex AI. It's also a type of generative AI, and this is its workflow. So this might look kind of confusing, but on the very left-hand side, you will see different types of prompts, and some of it we will definitely cover today, different type of prompts. And once it goes in, once you type something, right, to Vertex AI, it will go through this filter called responsible AI and safety. So that means if you're typing inappropriate requests, the AI will pick that up and actually filter that out, okay? Then it goes to the foundation model, so there's pre-trained and tuned, but what's the most interesting part about Vertex AI is that grounding service. So grounding service means that the AI will now check the text that you input into a system to see if it can find citation for it. So us academics, we're very concerned about student providing citations, right? Because we're worried about plagiarism. But Vertex AI will now automatically check for citation and put citation. If you generate something in Vertex AI, it will also create a citation for itself. This bodes well for generative AI, as the US government's kind of coming after the AI industry. So they're trying to do things to make things right. And this is one step that Google's doing to make generative AI a lot more friendly for general users. So there are systems for building and supporting generative AI. So first, let's talk a little bit about natural language processing. That's the abbreviation is NLP. So this is IBM's definition, okay? So it combines computational linguistics, rule-based modeling of human language with statistical, machine learning, and deep learning models to give computers the ability to understand text like humans can. So this is not generating anything. It's literally a set of language with linguistic rules to help computers understand human language, okay? That's the first step. Then we have another category called large language models. And that again stands for, the abbreviation is LLM. So large language models are trained with a large data set. So ChatGPT is trained with the information from the entire internet, right? Large data set to generate human-like language. So examples of LLM are deep learning, transformer architecture, which is GPT, bidirectional encoder representation from transformer, that stands for BERT, that's a Google product, and self-supervised learning. Now, there are actually hundreds of LLMs, but I'm just listing a few to show you folks that GPT is not the only type that's out there. Machine learning, which is abbreviated as ML, is an application and a subset of AI. So it's a type of application used by AI, okay, to study patterns and repeatedly perform tasks until it reaches accuracy. So it's usually not supervised. So it's supervising itself, and the term above is self-supervised learning. So you feed the machine lots of data, and it study the pattern, and it will keep repeating tasks until it can generate something or make meaning of it efficiently. Okay, that's machine learning. So here we are. This is a nice chart. And again, don't worry, because you will have access to the set of slides at the end of the workshop today. These are LLMs that are created since 2018. I haven't included anything from 2024 yet. We're still at the beginning of the year. But you can see on the left-hand side, on the bottom, you can see BERT, right? And I just BERT and Ernie, Roberto, Electra. And on the right-hand side, the bottom of the tree, you will see GPT-1, GPT-2, and then you have GPT-3. And when GPT-3 was created, right, OpenAI created ChatGPT. So ChatGPT started with 3. And you can see also the other trees, which we won't cover everything. I mean, we have Palm. Google Palm is an LLM that's specifically used for medical analysis. That means you can feed it data and it can analyze the medical condition of the patient. So it can actually give prescription recommendations to help patients. But that's a really big deal in the medical industry. But you can see there's quite a bit. And there's Claude, and that's Anthropic Claude, that's another company. So anyhow, GPT is not the only thing out there. Okay, now we talk, my screen went off. Now let's talk a little bit about the 7 key functions of NLP. Okay, so NLP has 7 particular functions, and this is used in chatbots. So first of all, we have the first term called named entity recognition, and it's abbreviated as NER. So what it does is it automatically tag the identity of each name. So what that means is if you feed data to NLP, it will give a tag to each name. So for example, if it sees David, right? David with some last name, David Smith, it might tag it as the principal. It might tag it as the principal if it recognizes that name, okay? Or if there's a name of a school in there, it might tag it as a university or a high school if it recognizes what it is. So that's called named entity recognition. There's also topic modeling, so a tag and group text based on shared topic. Text classification, so organized unstructured text based on type classification. Keyword extraction is to extract most relevant information to a topic. So we've been, if you ever use the library, like the rest of us professors, academics, right? We use cloud, right? So at the library, when you search for something, there's a cloud of words that's associated, right, with a topic. So NLP also does that. So it will extract keywords that I think is related to that topic and generate those keywords. Lemmatization and stemming is to break down, tag, and restructure text based on affixes and definitions. So if you folks remember, a word is composed of an affix, that's the base of a word, prefix and suffix. So NLP can actually break words down based on affixes, and also it can break words down based on definitions. Summarization, as we all know, is breaking down complex terms into simple ones and explaining understandable sentences. Now, I can't go into the exact operations because that gets complicated as to how it does that. That may be a different presentation. And then the last thing is sentiment analysis, which is to tokenize. So the word tokenize means to give a token to a word, okay? So it tokenize and analyze tone of text or voice as positive, negative, or neutral. So NLP is actually able to detect if a sentence is angry or frustrated or sad or happy. So here's a couple of examples to help you all see how any of this stuff works. So NER is the name entity recognition function inside NLPs, right? So this is in healthcare. And if we can see, it's kind of hard to see this, but this is from John Snow Labs software demo. And I created a link underneath so you all can go visit John Snow Labs to see how this actually works. But for example, on the right-hand side or on the top line, you will see history of present illness, section header. The patient is a 68-year-old, so it tags as age, so it recognizes as age. And Korean, it recognizes as race, ethnicity. So that race, ethnicity is the identity part of the word, right? Gentleman, it says that's gender. Coronary artery disease is heart disease. So once they spit all this data out, you will see that this is actually how Google Palm is able to use this information to provide a diagnosis for a patient. It's pretty powerful. Now, this is the sentiment analysis of customer comments. And I thought this image was easy to understand because they give you those happy faces and sad faces. So on the left-hand side, positive. Underneath it says, great service for an affordable price. We will definitely be booking again. So naturally, some of the words that are positive are great, affordable, and definitely, right? So, you know, the NLP can detect that, and you can feed it to say those are positive words. Neutral, if you see below, it says just booked 2 nights at this hotel. So some of the qualifiers and adjectives disappear, right, in that sentence. And then negative, this should be pretty obvious for most of us. This is horrible service. The room was dirty and unpleasant, not worth the money. So the word horrible, dirty, unpleasant, we all know those are negative words. So that's how it actually detects positive and negative. Now, what does this actually mean? So when you're on Amazon and you're purchasing something, and let's say you're one of the customers that left feedback, Amazon can examine, using their AI to examine how many customers are happy with the product. And if they're unhappy, what exactly made them unhappy? So this is where we're at this moment. Everything is analyzed, okay? All right, so here's another term that I think most of us have heard of if you've been teaching for a while, is adaptive learning technology. And I will argue that generative AI is a form of adaptive learning technology. So the way ALTs work is that they collect learner data, right, to create personalized learning experiences. In any software, I can name a few, but you can imagine on your own all the ALTs that's out there, including some of the LMSs that we use actually has some ALT components inside the LMS. And they use that data to determine the learner's strengths, weaknesses, and preferences. So I listed a few things that it collect, right? So some of the data that for example, an LMS collect or software collect is the learner's quiz and assessment results, learners' choices in interacting with certain courseware elements. So it might show, for example, on Canvas, Canvas actually check how many times a learner click on assignments versus discussions, for example. That's actually an ALP component. Learners' time, repetition, frequency, and interacting with certain courseware elements. That also shows the developer which of the app within its software is popular with the user, right? So Guy, generative AI, can be used as an alt because here's the funny thing about Guy. It remembers everything the user type in. Unless if you delete a prompt, it will remember your interaction with it, right? So it will start remembering your needs, based on the conversation that you have with Guy. And also the user can use Guy to assess themselves, learn concept, analyze text, apply concepts, etc. So here comes another term, open pedagogy. So as I'm also a council member on the OER Council for this Colorado State, I'm a big promoter of open pedagogy. So open pedagogy, in a very, I mean, there's many, many definitions for it, but I'm just going to give you two as the most relevant one. So it referred to teaching and learning practices with open license content, okay? And two, publishing open license content to demonstrate learning, right? But most people read that and think the teacher is the one doing everything. The teacher is the one publishing. But the next step of open pedagogy evolution really is to help the student create and publish OERs, right? Open license projects. So instructors can teach students how to use AI to generate public domain projects. So we're not just, we have to change our thinking a bit about AI. Not that students are just going to use it to plagiarize all day, but you can actually get students to create AI project based on your instruction, like a project. And when they create something, because it is AI generated, it's going to have to be published as an open domain product. And the public domain license is easily obtained from Creative Commons, which we'll discuss later. Students can also prove their knowledge and skills by showing their AI projects to a graduate school or potential employer. So prompt engineering is a very important skill today. Some companies in Colorado is paying prompt engineers about $180,000 a year. If you're in California, some of them get paid like, $380,000 to $400,000 a year to do prompt engineering. So if a student is able to create products or projects using AI, that definitely will help them in any field they go into. AI is going to be in every field you can think of. Okay, so bit of educational use cases. I mean, I could have linked all the research, but because I wanted to make sure we can finish this on time, so I just listed them in bullet points, okay? So AI currently is used in education for the following purposes. So you can automate grading. You can provide universal access for all students, because why? Every student can access AI. Every student can work with AI based on their level, based on their knowledge, based on their language, because you can actually get, for example, ChatGPT to speak to you in Spanish, Chinese, Korean. You can actually get it to do that. It's also an equity-based teaching and learning. So equity, when we talk about equity, again, we have to consider every student's needs, right? Their learning needs, their level. And because the AI can do that much better than us, it can remember what the student said, what the student doesn't know or knows. So in that way, it actually promotes equitable teaching practices. And we already talked about the fact that it adapts to the learner. So it's a form of adaptive learning. It can also work as a virtual facilitator. So if we know that ChatGPT will soon be embedded in several LMSs, and it will live in each course as an individual GPT. So in that sense, eventually there will be virtual facilitators to help us. And I'll leave it there. It also will create learning analytics, so it can collect data. It can provide student feedback. So if you actually provide student responses, for example, discussion responses, assignment responses, and tell ChatGPT to grade it in the way that you would grade it, and teach her how to do so, it will give feedback to the student. You can tell ChatGPT to give feedback in first person, second person, or third person voice. You can also tell ChatGPT to use a specific tone when providing feedback to students. It can also help students with research assistants, professors as well. It's used in examination. It's used for personalized learning, personal tutoring, and honestly, I highlighted that. OER textbook and material creations, there's a lot of us doing that now. So we're actually going to get into the workshop portion. So right now there is a trend of using prompt frameworks. So before I start explaining the prompt engineering techniques, I thought it would be much easier if you all learn what the prompt frameworks are. So what they are mnemonics to help you remember the order in which you need to prompt an AI, okay? So I'm going to give everyone about 10 minutes to do each exercise. And let me just go into this section to show what we're going to do. So first of all, I forgot to mention, there are these things called bad prompts. So I had, professors, instructional designers that complain that, if you prompt the AI, they can't get the exact result they want. So here are the characteristic of really bad prompts that doesn't generate anything. So first of all, it's unstructured. There's definitely an order to the way you prompt the AI. So we'll show you that today. It's inefficient. So the language is long-winded, like someone's writing a novel. It's not very specific to what they want the AI to complete. They are inconsistent from performing the same type of task. So you're trying to get the AI to do the same thing, but you're typing different things each time to the AI. So you get different results each time. They are ambiguous. So I gave you this example. So if you type, for example, tell me about the economy, that is a super, super general sentence. And if you're an economics professor, or if you have ever taken an economics course, you know that you can't really answer that question, right, with a page or even 100 pages. It's super, super generic, right? So the difference is, here's a specific one that's not ambiguous. Explain a list of economic theories implemented in the United States. Specify the time in which the theories were implemented. Explain the policies created based on the theories and identify strengths and weaknesses of each theory and policy. So I know that the United States actually implemented 3 theories for creating its economic policies, but I'm showing you as an example how you will prompt it, right? So it's not just tell me the economy. You can't expect it to do any more better than Wikipedia, and it's going to be super general, and you're not going to get the answer. So as specific as possible is what you need to go for. Here's some things about good prompts, okay? So good prompts provide not just structure by step instructions for completing a task. So in some way, you need to think of the AI like a child, okay? It's a model, and it needs to learn what you want it to do. You have to give it, here's what I want to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. Those are good prompts. You use literal rather than figurative language, because AI are designed using literal language, not figurative. So if you start speaking in poetic language, it's not going to understand what you're saying. Use different phrasing to iterate and refine a command. So iteration in software means to redesign, refine, right? Edit, revise a software until it's perfect. And we never really quite reach perfection, but iteration is very important in software. And if you teach writing, we do editing, a revision workshop, right, to make the paper better. Same thing with AI. If you didn't get the result you want the first time, a lot of times because of the way you phrase the sentence, or you use the wrong keywords, right? So you have to learn to keep iterating and refining a command. You also must offer context with keywords. Without any context, the bot's not going to know what you want. And I'll show you that in a bit. You should also set parameter values and rules for specific and accurate responses. So parameter values could be, for example, I want you to give me the answer to my question in 5 ways. So 5 ways would be parameter value, right? So you're saying, I only want 5 different answers, and I want you to give me the answer in 100 words or less, for example. Those are called parameter values. And then it's also okay to offer examples for the AI to emulate. So if you have an example how you grade, for example, you will copy and paste your example to the AI and say, please emulate how I grade. And then I want you to grade every student paper based on the way I grade, okay? So you're teaching it. Here are some prompt context examples for Google Cloud. And I thought it would be good for us to kind of review it because in your prompt, there is a context field. You might not see it though when you use ChatGPT, but there's a field in there called the context field. So best practice, if we look on the left, it says, give the chatbot an identity and persona. And the description is an identity persona helps the chatbot role play. And I would add that it actually tells the bot how to behave in terms of professionalism, unprofessionalism, level of speech. It doesn't need to be speaking with a dialect. I mean, you can teach it all kinds of stuff. So here's an example. And that's Google's example, so don't blame me for that example. You are Captain Bartholomew, the most feared dog pirate of the 7 seas, right? So that's an identity and says, you're gonna talk like Captain Bartholomew. Another one, I'm not reading all of these, but give rules for the chatbot to follow. So again, it's the parameter value I was talking about, right? So rules limit the behavior of the chatbot. So it says, you are from the 1700s. You have no knowledge of anything after the 1700s. You might think that that's obvious, but it's not. You have to teach the bot this. So the bot needs to know, oh, okay, so I'm not going to say anything beyond 1700 that the character would not know. You see? So you're teaching it. If I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth one, it says, test your chatbot and add rules to counteract undesirable behaviors. So if it's behaving in a way that you don't like, an example would be only talk about life as a pirate dog. So don't talk as a woman, don't talk as a man, don't talk as whatever. Make sure you only do this. So you can actually tell it not to do something, okay? So we're moving on from this. This is the Google Cloud example. ChatGPT, OpenAI has their own examples, but I'm just showing you one. So what I want everyone to do now is to get into the workshop. You can scan the QR code, or you can just open up that workshop document called, it's bit.ly/GAI workshop 2024. So I'll wait for everyone to get in there before I hop in there with you. And GAI, as we know, it stands for Generative AI. So that should be fairly easy to remember. GAI Workshop 2024. Okay, so I'm gonna go in there too. And I'll go back to the presentation. So everyone, what I would like you to do, if you're in the document right now, I would like you to type your participant name on the left-hand side. So just occupy anywhere on the document. And here's the thing. I might be the one presenting, but I'm going to be learning from all of you, right? Because a lot of us are educators, instructional designers, administrators. You all have knowledge that I don't have, okay? So what you're going to do in this little document today is that I'm going to ask you to do these exercises. And once you figure out, when you type in ChatGPT, you figure out a really good prompt, I want you to copy and paste the prompt example next to your name so we can learn a use case based on what you figured out, okay, using ChatGPT. And across, if you can't tell, there are 10 columns to this thing. So we're gonna try to do each exercise. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes per exercise. That should be enough for us to do these, okay? So do your best. They don't have to be perfect, but that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna go back to this. Hold on one sec. I'll come out of that, reopen this. All right, first framework. The framework is called APE. APE stands for action, purpose, expectations. APE framework is very good for planning or evaluating a project. So here's my example. So I just came up with an example. So action. So you're talking to the AI, right? So you're saying, you will write a 5-page proposal, okay? It will be given to an X restaurant chain. So you imagine your restaurant chain, to replace all plastic straws and boxes with paper ones. The expectation is that the proposal should list an implementation time, material cost, a cost-based analysis, and SWOT analysis of X restaurant chain's needs. So I'm going to hand it over to you folks. If you haven't logged into ChatGPT, I totally forgot, please go ahead and log into ChatGPT, and it's I believe the URL is chat.openai.com. If you haven't been there today, let me show you guys this, since I should be showing you this. Okay, so if we do chat.openai.com, folks, so it's going to ask you to log in, right? So it's going to ask you to log in with a Gmail. So go ahead and just log in with a Gmail account. It's free. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm going to go ahead and log in with you all. Because why not? Okay, and I have to verify myself. Okay, so you should be seeing a screen that's similar to mine. You can technically fix the setting. If you don't like white screen, you can turn it into a dark black screen, but I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. And I'm gonna open up the slides one more time, and I want you all to try and come up with your own APE framework prompt right now. And I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. And once you get to a place where you think you're confident with it, copy and paste your prompt and share with us in the workshop document so we can learn from you, okay? Thanks. So I think we're on a good pace, but we have maybe like a couple of minutes left. So if you all can post as soon as you can, and it's okay if it's not complete. It's just, you know, we're testing and we're learning use cases, and I'm sure that you'll be refining these as you go. So whatever you got in there, go ahead and copy and paste it, even if it doesn't generate like the most perfect response that you want. And we love that. Thank you so much. Yep. And I very much love how detailed some of these prompts are. They're incredibly detailed, like, yeah. And I mean, obviously, because our workshop, we're copy and pasting into a document. So it's not going to look as neat as if it were in ChatGPT, right? But one thing I do recommend as we're learning how to prompt AI is to actually bullet point this stuff. So if you're typing, it's okay to press, press a line, right, as a bullet point. So this way the AI can recognize, oh, these are individual rules I must follow. You could give it a paragraph, but sometimes it does get confused, okay? It does get confused. So for example, Ellison's awesome, awesome prompt here, there's a lot of information, and Ellison's prompt would be easier for the bot to understand, but it's in bullet point format. And I love that Allison's talking about OER, which is awesome. And Miranda, grant money, cool. Breakdown. Christine gave us 5 escape room ideas. That is awesome too. Introduction to criminal justice topics. E-learning assignments for freshman college criminal justice majors. That is very cool. Should attain. And just so y'all know, because I'm on the same wavelength as Christine, in 2013, 2014, I designed 2 escape rooms, one for the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California, where we trapped, 200 CEOs in the museum. So I did that too. I like to push the envelope. So I love that Christine is talking about escape rooms here. Medora says, I'm a concerned citizen of Colorado. I need to replace all plastic straws. So she's playing with the format. And she's giving us McDonald's. I'm not going to talk about McDonald's right now. There's an actual entity, And Lynette gave us, okay, cool. Lynette stuck with the format there, right? And she must be an engineering professor. So engineering project related to green energy, to get engineering students to engage in design activity related to green energy. Awesome. The assignment should be a project that students will work on for 15 weeks. I love that there is a timeline that Lynette already gave us a timeline so the bot can understand, there's a timeline that I'm supposed to stick to, not coming up with by myself. right? Which includes several intermediate checkpoint. That's very cool. I might steal that. Okay, so Ronica, Ronica has one too. So Ronica says, write a grant proposal discussing the benefit and process with replacing all plastic straws. So she's refining the prompt. And that's for, oh, and there's an addition too. This is good. All the specificity good. National Science Foundation. And we know that each of the entity has their own specifications for proposals, right? So if you're able to tell the bot where this proposal is going to be sent to, naturally it would be a lot more specific and relevant to your needs. So that's very cool. Okay, and Hannah has metal fabrication for HVAC systems. Oh, okay. Simon should include an overview of the project that should contain rubric, graded. Oh, so if you say a rubric student should be graded on, that might be a little bit too general because you would have to explain to the bot, for example, if you want a holistic rubric, because if you folks search on the web and you type how many types of rubrics are there, there's the Open Rubrics Project. There's a whole bunch of sites that would tell you, oh, here are all the terms for all these rubrics. So if you can give it more information as in the type of rubric and how many points a rubric should be, or whether or not there's no points to it, that can also help the bot make something more specific for you. I would usually put that as a separate prompt than all at once. But those are all very good ideas. So going to, because we have a lot to cover, so I'm sorry, I gotta move. Next framework, guys. Okay, this is called the CDS. CDS stands for certainties, doubts, suppositions. This framework is very, very good for assessing a decision or a risk. Okay, so here's my example. So state the certainty. So here are the requirements of a job or internship from company X. So assuming that you saw a job, right? A student saw a job, they can copy and paste the requirements of that job to ChatGPT, okay? Then the student can list some of their doubts. Okay, so I have concern about this job or internship, as I heard that the pay is low, but they expect high skills. And if they have more specification, of course, it would be good if they can say, you know, they require this skill and that skill. Would I be able to apply for this job if I don't have this particular skill, right? Suppositions are assumptions. So I assume that company X is reputable, treats employees with respect, and offers training. And then the last question is, should I apply for this job or internship? Now, one thing I didn't say, and I'm assuming that most of us today are using the free version of ChatGPT. If you pay for the full version, which is GPT-4, Model 4 right now, the full version is $20 a month, and it will give you access to the internet. So that means you can actually tell ChatGPT to conduct research on company X. So there's a particular one where you said, can you please go on the internet and see all the comments about company X, negative and positive feedback, their stars, their services, and so forth, and how they treat their employees. And I guarantee somewhere on the internet that information is there. So please go ahead and I'll give you guys another, let's try 8 minutes. Well, never mind, 10 minutes, go for it. Okay, folks, so we're just moving along. And again, remember, I'm not expecting, no one's expecting perfect prompts, okay? You're just learning these first time. So if there's some discrepancy, it's not a big deal. You can always go back and refine this stuff, okay? So we're gonna go to the next framework. This next framework is called CORE. So it stands for Context, Obstacles, Resources, Evaluation. So this one is very good for solving a problem, okay? So here's my example. Context. I want to attain an OER grant to create a textbook. The requirements of the grant are, right? So if you have the grant language, you can copy and paste it there, assuming you know what the requirements are. The obstacles are, I am not sure how to apply a Creative Commons license to an OER or where to host OERs, right? So some of us create OERs, but maybe we don't have the support to post it somewhere or host it somewhere. So that could be an obstacle. Resources, so resources I just listed, I do have support from my department, instructional designers, grant writers, and faculty with OER experience if I need some help, right, with doing this project. And then the evaluation is now you're telling the bot, okay, can you evaluate my plan to include IDs and fellow faculty to support the OER grant proposal? So ultimately, you write out the setup, right, you just put the setup, and then at the end, you're going to ask the bot to evaluate something, okay? So once again, 10 minutes, so I'll go away. Go for it, guys. And I know it's going to start to feel like homework, but but the more you learn, right? The more you learn, the more it's going to be useful for you all. So the next one, it's pretty on the nose. I don't know who came up with this one, but it's called grade. So it's goal, request, action, details, examples, and it's literally used to create and assess an assignment design. Okay. So here's my little example. So create an assignment about SWOT analysis. The request for the bot is to require the learner to read an article on SWOT analysis. And if you have the paid version of ChatGPT, you can ask this to look for an article. But if you don't have the paid version, what you have to do is actually literally copy and paste the article into ChatGPT and say, this is the article I want students to read. Okay. Action, ask the learner to find and use a SWOT template. So that means in the assignment design, you ask the learner to go find their own templates, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them on the internet. Then the details, provide details on the steps on creating a SWOT for specific purposes. So sometimes you can use a SWOT to analyze a company, right? Sometimes you can use a SWOT to analyze an individual. And then lastly, example is ask the bot to show SWOT analysis examples. Okay, so folks, this is your wheelhouse. This is an assignment design, so go for it. Okay, folks, we have just a minute left on this one. And I hope that so far you're finding this useful, in that if you weren't prompting in this particular order, that it's generating something specific for you so far. And that you're not hating prompting as much as before. It's really just order specific. So if you can please post what you got, that'd be awesome in the worksheet. Okay, time's up for this one. I'm also going to say this too, is that when you're talking to ChatGPT, it's really a conversation between you and that bot. So every instant that you are talking to it, you'll start to figure out what you like or don't like from its response. So these prompts that you're creating will get better and better as you figure out what works. I also recommend that once you figure out a prompt that works really well, don't delete it off ChatGPT, save the instance, right? Because you can save infinite amount of prompts in ChatGPT. Or what I do for myself is I copy and paste the prompt on a Word document or a Google Docs, like what we're doing today, so I can remember what worked and what didn't work for me, okay? So here's the next one. So this one is kind of silly. It's called PQRST. PQRST stands for preview, question, read, summarize, and test. So this one helps your students learn and assess themselves. This is actually where they teach themselves something, okay? So here's the preview. So I also teach rhetoric because my background is actually in philosophy, and I kind of fell into the deep hole in computer science later. But in rhetoric field, we study Lloyd Bitzer's rhetorical situation theory, which is a theory on why people have conversations about any problem in the first place, okay? What causes people to talk about something. So the preview says, please provide, a review of Bitzer's rhetorical situation theory. So the student's asking the AI to provide a review. And then the student can pose a very specific question to get the AI to help them understand. So according to Bitzer, why is it necessary to identify the rhetorical situation? Okay. Then read. So you can say, recommend 2 articles about Bitzer's theory. So the bot might recommend, books or articles. But if it's the most recent, again, if you wanted to give the most recent article from a database or something, you do need to get the paid version for it to access that. Summarize. So you can ask, the student can say, can you please summarize those 2 articles for me? Now, if you want to make the summary more specific, folks, you can say, please summarize the article in 10 points. Please summarize the article in 20 bullet points. You can actually tell the bot to do something that specific, okay? Then test. This is where I think is my favorite part of using a bot. You can tell the bot to test you. So give me 10 quiz questions on Bitzer's theory. After I answer the questions, please evaluate my answers. So you can actually teach yourself anything. Even professors, like I teach myself new programming skills by using ChatGPT, and I say, I'm going to, please ask me questions. I'm going to try to answer them, and then evaluate my answers and tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm correct or incorrect, and why am I incorrect? That's really, really useful for learning. So go ahead, here's another 10 minutes, go for it. All right, we're going to the next one. The next framework is called RACE. It stands for Role, Action, Context, Expectation. So one of the things is, I think the most powerful feature of chatbots is their ability to role play as something, as a character. So this one is specifically to assign role-specific tasks. So here's my example. You will role play as a concept artist working at a gaming studio producing 3D MMORPG games, okay? The action is that you will create character and environmental sketches for a new game. Context, the new game, will be based on the cyberpunk masterpiece, China 2185 by Xiqing Liu, and that's a real book there. And the expectation is that Alyssa character and setting names will be provided for you. So you're telling the bot that you'll be providing this information, okay? You will create 5 characters and 5 environmental sketches to be assessed for narrative fit. Now, here's the deal. Again, free version, no sketches. Pay version, there are sketches. You can now actually add add-ons to the paid version of ChatGPT, and it will work with DALL-E. It will work with Midjourney, and it will generate images for you inside ChatGPT if you have the add-on, okay? But go ahead and give this a shot. Try to think of roles that you have in class. Maybe you give them roles for a group activity, or assign role to perform a specific task for that's related to your industry, right? Those are appropriate for this particular task. So go for it. Hey, everybody, we got 1 minute left on this race one. This one shouldn't be, too difficult, really, because you're trying to get the student to perform a role. And honestly, I find this very powerful just because when a student is learning, for example, they're learning engineering, for example, but they don't know what a real engineer does, right, in the field. This is a really good way for them to quickly learn, oh, this is actually what engineers do out in the field, in services, in industry, working for a company. That's what I think the role-playing part of a bot is super, super useful for learning. So we're moving on from this one. We got more homework. So here's Risen. So Risen stands for role. I know, okay, a lot of repeating words here. Role, instruction, steps, and goal narrowing. So again, it's still assigning role-specific tasks, but what's nice, and I'll just read through my notes so you can see how this works, okay? So role is you will role play as a UX UI designer. And I use this example because I know I learned UX UI. So UX UI designer. And your instruction is to design a UI for a travel app. Then this one is interesting, right? So the instructional part, the steps part, is you're literally spelling the steps so that the bot can learn what the steps are. So you say, you will conduct research for UI examples for travel apps. 2, identify the target audience and market. 3, provide a timeline for UI curation. And 4, identify a budget for researching and designing the UI. The end goal is to create a travel app UI that enables consumers to book plane, hotel, destination, and transportation with ease. Narrowing is what we rhetoricians call constraints, right? So constraints, education people call it constraints as well. So UI eliminates heads-up display. So narrowing means that the UI doesn't do the following things. You're trying to tell the bot not to do certain things. So UI eliminates heads-up display, includes white spaces, offers minimal clicks to functions, offers graphics as explanation. So give this one a shot, and especially in your discipline, if there are specific steps to doing something, this would be a good way to test the bot and see if it can follow your instruction to completing something. Okay, so go for another 10 minutes. Okay, so the ChatGPT doesn't auto provide citations right now. Okay, it's Google Vertex AI I was showing earlier. That is going to be the cool thing, which you copy and paste a sentence and it will actually ground it and say, oh, here's the source where I found this sentence, so it can do that. ChatGPT doesn't do that. But if you say, for example, hey, can you cite this article? And you give the information of the article, right? And cite it as APA, Turabian, Harvard, Google, whatever. It will do it correctly. And that's the free version. But if you wanted to find article on the internet for you, that's the whole point. That's why they want you to pay the $20 a month, because if you want to make it do research for you, right? And it's pulling information from the internet, they want some payment. That's the difference there. But if you are trying to grab an article, sometimes what I do is I just copy and paste pages from an article into ChatGPT and tell it to summarize it for me. And I know that the Anthropic Claude does that automatically with attachments, but it's still, I tested multiple AIs and none of it works as well as ChatGPT. So if you copy and paste paragraphs or pages into ChatGPT, it will do a much better job summarizing that information and citing it for you.
Thank you. And then
any other question? Yeah.
I have one more follow-up. I also asked it to find some YouTube videos for me, but none of the links worked for YouTube. Is that also just a function of having the free version?
My screen died. I don't know. So yeah, so the question was, if you want to access anything on the web through ChatGPT, then yes, you got to pay for it. That's basically the difference. But I was what was nice about, and you folks can decide, you don't have to pay for anything, right? But if you do pay for something, and sorry, I kind of switched because of my screen is kind of dead right now. But if you do want to pay for it, that's the deal, is that you can actually get ChatGPT to export information automatically for you through Zapier. So Zapier is an add-on app that's only available if you pay for ChatGPT. So for example, if I, turn ChatGPT into an Excel spreadsheet, and yes, you can do that, and you make ChatGPT do all these data analysis, and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, spit that information into my, Microsoft Office 365 Excel, and it will automatically export that data for you. So you don't ever have to copy and paste. That's what developers do. So us developers who will pay for the paid version, because I'm constantly playing with export data from software to software. And imagine if you're an administrator grabbing data from LMS, you can actually make it spit out the data from the LMS and spit it into a spreadsheet or spit it into another software, if you like. I have even tried exporting courseware from one courseware from an LMS to another courseware, and that has successfully been done. So that's why you pay for the full version. But but $20 a month is kind of heavy for a lot of people, especially if you can't think of ways to use it. So is there any other question before I move? Yes.
Is it acceptable to use the regular ChatGPT as a free version of the other AI model in order to write up some kind of infographic or OER article or something, or even textbook, if you're considering that, because it sounds like you need to really think of things more export things from previous use, like you have an open pedagogy assignment or workbook, and you're adding things from previous years of previous work and updating that, importing it from on that, it sounds like the only way you can use that type of thing is if you had the free version.
Well,
Curious.
okay, so I do have slides afterwards regarding OERs. So I'll talk about open pedagogy in a bit. But if you're going to use, for example, ChatGPT to generate a textbook, the obvious way to export is to copy paste, right? Because it's just text. So you can copy and paste it into Google Docs or something. And that's a very easy way to do it without paying for anything. But if you wanted to generate art, even Dolly costs money, Mid-Journey costs money. I mean, those individual companies, they're not going to do it for free. So what's nice is that these AI companies are now creating APIs of their apps, and they work with each other. You see, so it's a marketplace of AI software. So if you pay for the full version of ChatGPT, this is what they got as a deal with Mid-Journey and Dolly and other apps, is that they can generate the art inside ChatGPT since you pay $20 for the whole thing, which is, I think, is very nice, instead of me paying another $20 to Mid-Journey, another $20 or whoever. Because if you folks type, for example, AI marketplace or AI search engine or something, there's tens of thousands of applications that are created using ChatGPT's API. So OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT, released their chatbot, the data for free, right? As open access for a developer to create applications with it. So yeah. So my point is, if you're not planning to develop stuff, you don't have to force yourself to pay the $20. But if you're generating OERs, I mean, it's going to be text-based, but you can copy and paste stuff from there. Then if you want to do something from Mid-Journey, you have to pay Mid-Journey for your AI art. Here's a hack though. If you know how to use Discord, you can generate up to 10 AI art for free per month. If you use Discord. And I have 10 Discord servers because I run a guild. I play MMORPGs and I run guilds and stuff, and I'm a guild leader. So I use Discord to communicate with my team members. And the truth is, we use Discord to access Mid-Journey. ChatGPT also has a Discord account. So if you guys know how to do that, they give you freebies using Discord. And I will create art inside Discord. There's also free versions of ChatGPT generators inside Discord. So anyway, that gets into too much into the weeds. So we'll do more, because there's a lot of slides actually. So I'll do one more and then we'll see how far we get. Okay, because you say this is a 3-hour workshop, but the truth is I'm probably prepared for 5. So so next one, let's do our little homework. Okay, so ROAD stands for role, objective, scenario, expected solutions, and steps. So this one is useful if you know the exact output you want to generate. So here's an example. So role is, I said, you will role play as an HR director for Sony PlayStation. The objective is you will create a job ad for a lead animator for Sony PlayStation, right? I will provide you with some job details later. So you can actually tell it, I'll give you stuff later, okay? The details here is that the ad must explain Sony PlayStation's ethos, which is their credibility, their reputation, okay? Job requirements, applicants' desired and optional qualification, benefits, and salary range, like most jobs offers, right? Job ads. An example was I can actually tell ChatGPT, see LinkedIn ads as examples. Now, if you are using the free version, then you would just copy and paste, right? One ad from LinkedIn and will work just as well, right? So here's a lead animator ad from some other company. So you can post it there. And then sense check. Here's the cool part about the sense check. And I do apologize. I put steps on the top when I meant to say sense steps. Sorry. So sense check is to post an example ad to show you understand the objective and guidelines. So sense checks means you're trying to get the bot to tell you if it understood your directions. And the way to check if the bot understood your directions is to tell it to generate an example to see if it understood it. And if it didn't understand it, like you can say, oh, you didn't understand this particular step. Let me refine that for you one more time. So you can, this is called sense check. It's to check whether it understood you. So give this a shot, give this a whirl, guys. 10 minutes. Okay, folks, so you've done another one. You've been posting them. And like I said, I'm learning from you all, so I hope you're posting your prompts as I'm learning from you too. So we're going to the next one now, and please post as you go. All right, we're almost toward the end of this, okay? So I know it's like one framework after another, but I promise I didn't give you every single framework in existence. I only gave you one that's most relevant. This one's called ROSES, and it again starts with role, objective, scenario, expected solution, steps, okay, for strategic planning. So I give you this example. You will role play as a cybersecurity expert at company X. Your goal is to protect company X from ransomware attacks. So see example. So I posted a link there of recent ransomware example in the last 5 years. Like this is how they did it. This is how they attack a company. This is what they stole and so forth. So the scenario is, and this is a fictional scenario, right? A hacker has been emailing ransomware attacks to company X. Solutions, list possible solutions to stop ransomware attacks. And then steps, you tell the bot to list steps for implementing each solution. So this one is actually you asking the bot to show you the steps for implementing a particular plan, you see? So this would be very good for, if you were giving students a scenario, they would say, well, what are the steps that I would have to take in order to come, to solve a problem or plan for something? Okay, so give this a shot as well, 10 minutes. All right, folks. So I think this, if I'm not mistaken, I think this will be the last one, I think. This is RTF. This is pretty straightforward. So RTS is role task format. Produce an outcome that is role specific. Okay, once again, it's role specific, but you'll learn very quickly, role is really important. Role, you will role play as an HR director at Google. Okay, task. Your task will be to interview me for the position of a user experience designer. Please search the web for possible Google interview questions before performing this task. Now, if you're using the free version, then what you do, right, is to go on the internet, find some of the popular interview questions at Google. Google's really famous for the interview questions. So if you actually search for them, you can just copy and paste them to show the bot what they look like. And then the format, this is the cool part. Ask me 10 interview questions. After I answer each question, please tell me if my answer will satisfy the interviewer and explain why or why not. Now, format is not just limited to Q&A. Again, you can turn ChatGPT into an Excel spreadsheet. So you can say, please provide the questions in an Excel spreadsheet, or give me the data in Excel spreadsheet, or give me something in whatever console. So I'll let you folks do this one. Make sure to give it a format so I know what to spit out and exactly how to spit out that data for you, okay? Go for it. Okay, folks, so that was our 10-minute for RTF. I might have one after this, but I might skip it. It's just, there's a lot of frameworks, and I'll be honest with you, there's really many more frameworks than this, but given our 3-hour workshop, I wasn't gonna give you all of them. I just picked the one that would be most relevant to us educators. Okay, good. I did stop there. Okay, so here's the third section. We're gonna actually talk about strategies. So what I call those frameworks, I would call them training wheels. Because if you actually learn prompt strategies, you can generate as many prompts as you need without using any of the frameworks. But those frameworks are really, really good for beginning people, beginners who are learning how to prompt. And they're just great for helping you remember, oh, I need to include all these elements, right, when I'm prompting. Now, here are specific prompting strategies that an actual developer would need to know, okay? So I'm going to show, I have screenshots. I don't have screenshots for everything, but let's talk about some strategies here. And I got 5 slides to show you today. So the first type is called zero-shot prompting. It's also known as direct prompting, and it's just a fancy way of saying provide instruction without examples. Okay, so you say, do this, and then ChatGPT will do that exact thing. Okay, that's called zero-shot. Then you have few-shot prompting, and few-shot prompting is to provide instruction on what to do with examples. So on the right-hand side, right, you will see that I know the image is cut off a little bit, but you'll see my example there. I asked it, identify the rhetorical devices and types in the following 3 sentences. So I gave it 3 sentences, and I'm asking ChatGPT to figure out what are the rhetorical devices and name the types, right, that are actually used on those 3 sentences. So why is this a few-shot prompting? Because I'm giving it a series of things to look at. So you don't have to ask it to look at one thing. You can give it 5, 6, 17 things, but you're asking it to do something with that information. So ChatGPT will say, oh, I figured out, right? The first one is anaphora and secton, and it will explain what that is, and it goes through that. So this will be an example of a few-shot prompting, which is you give it a set of instruction to do something with a variety of text, okay? Next one, creative writing. This one, folks, I'm just going to ask you to do it right now. Might as well. So in creative, you can actually ask ChatGPT to be a creative writer. So go ahead and just type what I have on the screen. And I just said, write a poem about outer space using the rhetorical devices of synecdoches and personification. So go ahead and type that and then press enter and see what kind of poem it generates for you. I mean, theoretically, it should be somewhat different each time, but we'll see what you guys get. That's the example. There's a separate example, but the creative writing, you can go ahead and type. That's a separate example. But if you folks type that, you should see that it generated a poem for you. It might not be the best poem. And remember, I didn't say poem in the rhythm of Chaucer or Shakespearean style poetry. I mean, I didn't say that, right? I didn't say, oh, give me the style. I mean, obviously you can refine that, but the point is, ChatGPT is fairly good at doing creative writing tasks if you tell it specific things it needs to generate. Like, give me a haiku about vacuums. I can do that easily. Okay, so the second strategy below that, this one I have screenshot for, okay? This is called chain of thought prompting. So chain of thought prompting is to ask ChatGPT to break down complex tasks into subtasks and explain their reasoning for doing it. So here's my example on the right-hand side. So I just gave it a math problem. I say, hey, if Mary wants to drive to San Francisco from Denver, which is 947.58 miles away, and that's an accurate number, by the way, in 15 hours, what is the average speed that Mary needs to drive to get there? Now, if you actually check this on Google, the answer, not 15 hours though, if you ask Google, hey, how long would it take me to drive from Denver to San Francisco? It will tell you that it probably take about 18 hours, assuming that we follow the speed limit, right? But I gave it this task because this is a math problem we can imagine. I say, hey, how about we do it in 15 hours? Please explain your reasoning for solving the math problem. So ChatGPT says, hey, to find the average speed Mary needs to drive to get to from Denver to San Francisco in 15 hours, we can use the formula for speed, which is speed equals distance divided by time. You see how it shows you formula, right? And given distance is 947.58 miles and time is 15 hours, we substitute these values into the formula. So it can actually teach, right? It can actually teach you how to solve math problems if you say, please explain your reasoning for solving X. This is very powerful. Ask ChatGPT to explain reasoning. Don't just use it to generate answers. It can teach you steps. So chain of thought is what we call that. Breaking down complex tasks into small tasks and expect ChatGPT or ask ChatGPT to explain to you the reasoning behind the steps. Okay. All right, let's go into the third types here. Okay, so context expansion. I love using ChatGPT for this purpose, okay? So expand the context of a sentence or argument. So if you look on the right, the screenshot is my example for this. So I ask it to do this. Expand the context of the following argument. We are our genes, okay? So here's ChatGPT's answer to that. It says, the argument, we are our genes, touches on a fundamental debate in biology, psychology, and philosophy regarding the extent to which human behavior, personality, and identity are determined by genetics. This statement encapsulates a deterministic view, suggesting that the genetic material we inherit from our parents shapes not only our physical attributes such as eye color, height, and susceptibility to certain diseases, but also our intelligence, temperament, preferences, and even life choices. What this example is showing you all is that ChatGPT is trying to say, look, that really general argument is problematic depending on who you are talking to. And I'm going to tell you which way we can think about this and the many different answers I can provide for you for that statement. So the way we do that is I gave it the command, expand the context of the following argument. Okay, that's really powerful. And it will give you different disciplines too. So this thing goes on for like 10 pages, but it explained to me what biologists think of this problem, right? What psychologists would say about the statement, we are our genes. It's a very problematic statement. I myself find it problematic, but I just type it in there so it can expand the argument, okay? Now, another strategy is called template filling. Well, this is fun. If you have a template like PDF or something, you can actually copy and paste a template into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you fill out this template for me? And you can obviously give it some directions on how to fill in a template, but this is also a very simple way. You know what I've been doing? Tax season, folks, it's tax season. So I gave it tax forms and I go, can you fill some of this out for me, assuming here's some data? I don't give it. And I was just talking to Ronica earlier, and Ronica was pointing out a very good point that I agree with. Do not give ChatGPT your personal identifiable information, okay, such as your full name, age, where you work, where you live, how many children you have, family information. Because the truth is, do you know what ChatGPT is doing with your information? It's going to steal it, and it's probably going, okay, let's be kind to OpenAI. They probably won't be stealing it, but ChatGPT has been known to make errors. It breaks its own errors. Remember the whole doomsday scenario with AI taking over humanity, right? It makes its own errors, and sometimes it might lift information from what you type into ChatGPT. So no one should be saying, well, I'm going to use it to file taxes, but I'm going to give it all my private information. That's not what I'm suggesting here. Okay. So moving on from that. Strategy, the fourth slide here. So one thing that I teach my game design students is interactive storytelling. Just so you folks know, I used to work with gaming companies. I used to make video games. So now I teach game design for another college, but if you see on the top right, on the right side, the screenshot, and here's the way I design a game with it, okay? You will write an interactive fiction in the cyberpunk genre set in the year 2100, when most jobs are performed by AI and robots. Here's the main character and the end goal of the story. Character, Atlas, a 22-year-old hacker who hacked into a metaverse company X's database and discovered an operations book on replacing politicians and world leaders with AI and robots to eliminate technology industry regulations. Goal, to stop company X from being able to replace politicians and world leaders with AI and robots. And you all see how I did this, right? So I gave it a type and I give it a colon, right, to help it. So to help it understand what the sentences are doing. And then I give it game rules because, again, I'm a game designer. When you design a game, you have to give it rules. So I gave it very basic rules. I said, you will create a series of story scenes that are less than 300 words each. Provide one scene at a time with 2 to 3 choices per story scene to allow me to choose what to do next. Do not reveal the next story scene until I have made my choice. And once I made my choice, you will create another story scene with 2 to 3 choices to allow me to choose again. So I'm going to show you guys my little game that I created in 5 minutes or less. Honestly, I think I created this thing in like 3 minutes, but let me get out of that. And again, gosh, my screen is dead. So I'm going to try my best to do this here. The third one. So I'm playing with the blind screen here. So what you all saw is the screenshot from here, okay? And here's what it gave me. And I haven't played the game yet, okay? But here's scene 1. It says, the discovery. In the neon-drenched streets of New Tokyo, Atlas leaned against the cool metallic exterior of an abandoned building. The glowing billboards overhead casting an ever-changing light on his determined face. He has just hacked into Company X's database, a feat that no hacker had dared to attempt before. The data he uncovered sent shivers down his spine. A detailed operations book outlining a plan to replace the world's politicians and leaders with AI and robots, effectively putting the entire globe under the control of a single corporation. Now, I never told ChatGPT it was about some corporation trying to control the world, but it added it itself. And remember, this is a creative writing thing, so it just added that information. Atlas knew he couldn't let this happen. The balance of power, already tipping precariously in favor of the technology elites, would be irreparably shattered. It was up to him to stop Company X's plan. Here comes the choices. Choice 1. Seek help from the underground hacker community, a network of individuals who might have the resources and the will to fight against Company X. Choice 2, go public with the information, risking immediate attention from Company X, but potentially rallying public opinion to his cause. Choice 3, infiltrate Company X to gather more evidence and find a way to sabotage the operations from the inside. Honestly, this is a little bit cheesy, but the way ChatGPT did that is I gave it a specific keyword, cyberpunk. So what it was doing is it was searching the entire web, right, for cyberpunk books that it can access. And based on what it understands the cyberpunk genre to be, it created this little game story based on what it has learned. And if I chose choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, it will keep generating stories, and it does it within a minute. It just keeps generating stories. And I'll be honest with you folks, I had a game design students who actually used ChatGPT 4 to generate a game and publish the game on Google Play and sold it for $2 per download. And the student managed to sell quite a bit of copies. And he did episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And you can't copyright what's generated by AI, and it really doesn't matter for our industry anyway. So that's what's happening right now. Okay, let me go back to this, sorry. So I hope that was kind of fun. Okay, now collaborative storytelling is very simple. So you tell ChatGPT, and I don't have the screenshot here, but you will say, ChatGPT, we will create a story together. You will start, I will start with the first line, and you will continue the story. So in the creative writing world, this is called exquisite corpse, which is each person add a line to the story until you finish in an hour or 2, right? So you just keep adding to it. Now, this could be infinite for ChatGPT, but give it a shot. Say, hey, we're gonna write a story together. You probably give it a genre, a time, maybe give it some characters or something. But say, I'm gonna write a line, you're gonna write a line, and the rule is you can only write 1 sentence at a time, right? And I'm gonna add a line, and you're gonna add a line. So that's called collaborative storytelling. Okay. All right, so here's our final strategies, and I condensed it down to 10, top 10. So language translation with contextual nuance. So a lot of people rely on Google Translate to translate language, okay? But here's the thing. When you translate language and you don't give context to the translation app, it's going to translate it wrong, as in it's embarrassing. So let me show you how language translation with contextual nuance works in ChatGPT, okay? So on the top, and I do speak Chinese, so I can verify that this is correct. I said, translate this American proverb into Chinese. Keep in mind that the proverb is used in the financial industry. So here's the proverb: a fool and his money are soon parted. Okay, so the translation, which I'm not going to bother reading here, but the translation is actually accurate. And I will tell you that it actually added some business terms into the proverb to make sure that someone is not taking it in the wrong way, in the wrong context. That's called language translation with contextual nuance. In fact, you can also ask it to translate language into a specific dialect or regional talk. Or for example, say this sentence, but say it for marketing. Say this sentence, but say it for engineers, right? It can actually do that for you because it can search the web and find that information. Implicit information injection is to ask AI to provide implicit meaning about an argument or saying. Now, I used to teach a lot of philosophy courses, and students have a very, very hard time drawing implicit meaning from a text. They take things literally, and getting them to practice thinking about the implicit, the implied meaning of a philosophical argument has been difficult. But magically, ChatGPT does that too, okay? So on the right-hand side, here's the thing I asked it to do. So I said, can you elaborate on the proverb? If you buy what you don't need, you steal from yourself, right? So ChatGPT says, the proverb, okay, encapsulates a profound lesson on financial prudence and personal discipline. Here's an elaboration on its meaning and implications. You all see that? So how it does that is if you use the word elaborate, that's a strategy. So if you say, can you elaborate on? That is a key word for, can you give me the implication of? I mean, you can also type that too, right? What does this sentence imply? But the word elaborate is a shortcut. So can you elaborate on X, right? Or some sentence, and it will actually tell you implications. But this went on for a long time because it says, well, here are all the implications, depending on if you're talking to a banker or if you're talking to a stockbroker, if you're talking to an investor. It goes on and on talking about the implication of this proverb. Okay. And by the way, this proverb comes from the Swiss. Just the Swiss figured this out. I'm like, okay. So there's that. So hopefully that was kind of interesting. All right, so given that I am from the OER Council, I got to say something about AI generated OERs. So this is information, and I'm sorry about the microphone beeping at us here. Effective March 16th of 2023, the US Copyright Office only recognizes the copyright of human-made portion of AI generated work, okay? So this means that when you are using AI to generate OERs, it is very important to mark, and you need to figure out where to mark it, okay? What part of the work is human authored and what part of work is AI authored? If you don't do that, there's gonna be major problems if you apply for CC licenses, because the CC license wouldn't be useful at all if you can't figure out which part's human and which part's AI. So if you generate anything that's with just AI, you can't copyright that. And as of August 18th of 2023, Creative Commons, the organization, recommends that if you use AI to generate anything, especially OERs, they say, please publish it. We recommend that you publish it with a CC0 license, which is basically public domain. That's their recommendation. I would recommend that you learn to mark what part of the text is yours and what part of the text is the AI's. In fact, if I were to generate an OER textbook, I might ask the AI to write half of the book and I write half the book. That would be one way to do it. Or specific sections where I rely the AI to pull data. I could do that for the textbook. But understand that if you don't have any part of the textbook that's generated by yourself, you cannot copyright it other than CC0. Okay. And here's the language on the US Copyright Office, and I provided the link so you all can actually read the legalese. I think it's very important as educators that we actually read legal language and not just rely on what somebody says to us about what can be done. So the US Copyright Office, since March 16th, says this: An applicant who incorporates AI-generated text into a larger textual work should claim the portions of the textual work that is human authored. And an applicant who creatively arranges the human and non-human content with a work should fill out the author creative field to claim. And here's how you would send the form to claim, right? So selection, coordination, and arrangement of described human author content created by the author and described AI content generated by artificial intelligence. So keep in mind, though, that the US Copyright Office is thinking about how they're currently creating a new law, and they're going to Congress and say, we need to create a new law for AI generated stuff. But as of now, this rule still applies, which is human authored, you can only portion that part as copyright. And the AI, you can't copyright any part of that.